Do you know who Norman Finkelstein is?
Yeah.
So we've had him on the show. Norman Finkel. It's this guy, Norman Finkelstein. So he's a big critic of Israel, and I wonder if he's even kicked out of Israel or something.
Why is he so anti-Semitic? Or Finkelstein?
So he's Israeli. So can you give it his bio? Who is he?
It says Norman Finkelstein is an American political scientist, activist, former professor, and author. His primary field of research are the Israeli-Palestinian conflict and the politics of the Holocaust. That's what I have.
Okay, so we've had him on this show, and he's a very articulate critic. So now we've been talking about there is no progressive movement anymore. They've all it's because of Bernie Sanders completely capitulated to the establishment war machine and Wall Street that none of the progressives know what to do with themselves, right? You got them all out there voting for war. Everybody, and Bernie Sanders voting for war. You got AOC, Rashid Tlaib, Pramila Jayapal, Cory Bush. They're all voting for war. They're all imperialists. They're all for empire. And Norman Finkelstein's going to call them out. Nobody else will. They're making nothing but excuses for them on the other YouTube shows that are quote unquote progressive, right? They won't stop excusing their horrible behavior.
Why don't you blame Trump-appointed judges instead of
that's
the
right.
people that...
So, yeah, you got, so you know who the usual suspects are who make excuses for the progressives doing horrible things. You know who that would be, the Young Turks, that would be Kyle Kulinski, those types of people. And so here's what he has to say about it. Now, this is real, right? This is real.
The day the squad and Bernie voted for war credits for the Ukraine, that whole enterprise called, the progressive, turned into a rotting corpse.
Bam. The day they voted for the Ukraine war, the whole progressive movement turned into a rotting corpse. I think it was already.
Yeah, I was going to say I started a little earlier.
After forced to vote, it was clear.
I take the point, though.
It was over. Forced to vote was the demarcation moment, and it was like, they're never going to do anything. But I guess when they start voting for $100 billion to the most corrupt country in Europe to do a war for the military-industrial complex, I guess that would be a rotting corpse moment. Yeah, he's got more to say. Let's start. Let's give it a running start.
The day the squad and Bernie voted for war credits for the Ukraine, that whole enterprise called, the progressive, turned into a rotting corpse. The whole job of leftists, as they understood it back then, is to constantly point out the conflict of interest, what they call contradictions, but we can leave that aside. The conflict of interest between the ruling elite, the capitalist class, and yourself. To constantly point out their interests are not your interests. Their interests are not your interests. Don't be fooled. And for them, the hallmark of what you call class consciousness, the hallmark of class consciousness was seeing that fundamental conflict and cleavage between you, your class, your interests, and the ruling class. Now, let me be clear. That's exactly what Bernie did. He knew, he internalized, it was in his bone and in his blood, that tradition. And that's why day in and day out and day in and day out in both of his campaigns, he kept talking about there are a bunch of crooks. There are a bunch of crooks. Big Pharma, bunch of crooks. And he did exactly what an old-time socialist would have done. Class consciousness. Their interests are not your interests. But then what happened? When it came to the foreign policy, all of a sudden, the bunch of crooks metamorphosed into a band of angels. You're telling me the same people who are cheating you day in and day out, stealing your wealth, stealing your labor, the same people are suddenly heartbroken by what's happening to the Ukrainian people? Are you telling me that? They're suddenly so concerned about the Ukrainian people?
So that was very well said. That's from Useful Idiots with Aaron Mate and Katie Halper. And Wow, go and bring in Jackson Hinkle. Jackson, that was I could show you Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders did get protested. Let me show you real quickly, and then we'll bring in Jackson. Here he is getting protested for that vote, and watch how Bernie reacts. Watch this.
This election is about our economy.
Bernie, you're leading us to nuclear war!
Right,
Bernie, you're going to start a nuclear war!
Tax to billionaires and then cut Social Security,
Why are you
Medicare,
funding this
and
war in
Medicaid.
Ukraine, Bernie?
Well,
You can
John
stop it!
Fetterman, Summerlee disagree.
Bernie,
We think
you
that
know we
billionaires should
overthrew the
start
government of Ukraine in
paying their fair
2014.
share of taxes,
This
not
is
cutting.
pointless if we have a nuclear war, Bernie! You will kill
We
us
think
all!
we should raise the minimum wage to a living
Stop
wage.
funding this war! Stop funding
We
this
think
war,
we should make it
Bernie!
easy
We
to
trusted
rest
you!
on the
You were supposed to lead a
industrialized
revolution!
world
You're leading us to
and
annihilation in
healthcare
Ukraine!
We are taking on people who have unlimited amounts of money.
But
They
Bernie,
got the money.
where
Excuse
is
me,
our money
they got
going?
the money.
You're sending
We
money
have
to
the power.
Nazis
We're not
in
gonna let
Ukraine.
People, excuse me. We're not going to let people disrupt our meetings. So
Why did you oppose the letter
Where
of
we
all
are
progressives
right now
on sending money?
is in this moment.
You're starting a
standing
nuclear
up
war
to
with
the
Russia,
billionaire
Bernie.
class, billionaire class.
You were supposed to start a political revolution. Instead, you're sending money
And telling
to
the
Ukraine.
people
You're
of
starting
Pennsylvania,
a third
the
world
people
war,
of this
Bernie.
country.
Why are you voting to fund a nuclear war, Bernie? Why are you voting to fund a nuclear war,
We came from Vancouver to
Can you
see
answer our question?
Let me ask you a question.
Why?
Who's paying you?
And that's the scummiest moment of Bernie Sanders' life. He's voting for murder, war, imperialism, empire, and the military-industrial complex. He's a full and willing tool. And when an activist confronts him, he smears that activist. And now you know the dark spot on Bernie Sanders' soul.
Well, why isn't he heckling Trump?
So let me bring in Jackson. What do you make of Finkelstein?
That was the first time I've seen the Bernie clip too.
Oh, really? You never
clip,
saw that before?
where he asks who's paying you.
Yeah.
So he's fighting against the billionaires here so he can help the billionaires in Ukraine.
Yeah, don't you want to write better material for them to yell at him? I could think of zings for him.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
guys says he hit me up if you want to yell. Funny stuff. I'm all for it.
It's just crazy. It's insane. Look, I mean, Finkelstein is right. He's 100% right. I just don't get people like Bernie. So you have Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson that are going out on nightly news and calling Zelensky, rightfully so, a welfare queen, and calling out his egregious war crimes. And then Bernie Sanders and AOC are here defending sending another this week $37.7 billion to Ukraine. They do this because they don't want to be. They don't want to be cast aside into the irrelevancy of political history. Bernie Sanders said he didn't want to be the next Ralph Nader, right? Well, now he's something far, far, far worse than Ralph Nader. He's a sellout, he's a fraud, and he's become part of the machine.
Well said. Well said by Finkelstein. That was fantastic.
Plus,
Norman
Tucker and
Finkelstein.
Candace Owens are allowed to say that stuff because they're already in the bad people table for the
Right.
important voters and donors. So they don't have to worry about them saying the truth. That's why they're allowed to. What's important is someone like Bernie doesn't say the truth ever. That's way more vital to the operation.
Well, if he did, then he would be setting an example for the squad and all the other progressives, and they would maybe follow it. And so that's why it was most important for Joe Biden and the establishment to get Bernie under control. And Bernie got his mind right. And Bernie never talks about healthcare anymore. He never talks about Medicare for all. He never talks about the public option. He never talks about anything except what a great job Joe Biden's doing. And I'm sucking his blue cock because blue cocks are less corrupt than red cocks.
He got accused of being a Russian agent and had the balls to say a guy who used to work for him who's paying you.
Who's
like
paying
it's
you?
Russia.
Yeah, that's exactly what. So Bernie did to anti-war activists or peace activists what the establishment did to Bernie. And now you know why Bernie Sanders is a complete cuck to the establishment.
I used to think he was just weak. I think he was a phony the whole time now.
He's a
That's where I'm
phony.
at.
It turns out Bernie is a phony. It wasn't real. He wasn't. He didn't mean any of it. He didn't mean, hey, it sounds like you're ready for a revolution. He didn't mean it. He stopped saying it because they told him to stop saying it.
I think he didn't see through Sasha's terrible makeup that he had. I think he did see through it and pretended not to. So I go, oh, what a good guy.
You know, the worst part about those videos, and those videos are great. There was a dude this week who confronted John Bolton and called him out. That I don't know if you saw that.
No,
but you got to see that. He squirms. It's hilarious. But anyways, the best part about those videos are all the bots in the crowd, and they're like, stop talking, shut up. What are you
yelling about nuclear war.
That's my.
And then you have like Bernie.
What, you got
Elizabeth.
Something more important to talk about?
The billionaire.
Yeah, stop interrupting our meeting. We only let nuclear bombs do that, right?
At least say the billionaires should pay their fair share of the profits from this money laundering Ukraine operation, right? By all means, let's do that. Let's keep it going and launder our money. But they should pay a little bit out of the sweet proceeds of that operation.
Let's get some of that FTX money, funnel it into healthcare.
A little bit of that liquid freedom money.
Did you want to say something, Jackson?
They're just pathetic. My favorite thing right now is Ro Khanna. Every time you look at Ro Khanna tweet out some dumb stuff because he's wants to be the next Bernie. He wants to run for president in this next election cycle. Everyone sees that.
Yes.
He's tweeting about landlords. He's tweeting about just like the most random stuff on the planet.
He's repulsive,
and every
dude.
single time someone says, well, hey, maybe we'd be able to pay our rent if we weren't sending, $100 billion over to Ukraine. And he gets ratioed on every single tweet. It's incredible.
So Ro Khanna did the same thing Bernie did when Max Blumenthal confronted him over his vote for the war machine in Ukraine. He said he was being paid by Russia. Mm-hmm. So that's what they do. So
women, racism, or Russia, the three W's.
That's it. Three W's: women, racism, or Russia. And so they're all pukes, right? So don't forget that, as you know, they're mediocre people, which is why they're attracted to that stuff, right? I'm mediocre, which is why I'm attracted to politics.
I guess as is trauma survivor AOC.
Yeah, trauma survivor. And she's got trauma.
She had a terrible time 2 blocks away. She thought she was gonna die. It was the pizza guy. He had lunch.
We'll see you November 19th and 20th in Austin, Texas. November 26th, that's the Saturday after Thanksgiving, in Burbank. And then all December, we're going to be in Los Angeles doing Friday night shows. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for all the tickets and become a premium member. While you're there, you get all of our videos unedited. jimmydore.com. Not Jimmy Dore Comedy.